Rain tapped insistently against the glass as Lena pressed the receiver to her ear, her pulse quickening. It was after midnight, the radio in the corner crackling with distant sirens and routine chatter. She had been on the graveyard shift for nearly 3 hours, long enough to hear every plea, every panicked cry, but nothing prepared her for the tremor in the small voice on the line. "Please," the child whispered, voice trembling like a leaf in a storm. "We're so hungry." Lena's fingers tightened around the receiver. She adjusted the call volume, listening as a second voice answered from somewhere dark and silent. "I'm so hungry too." Twins, she realized, barely more than toddlers. They sounded exhausted, each word a fragile breath, a whisper of desperation. Her heart knotted. Dispatch protocol flashed through her mind, but beneath the procedure she sensed raw need. She took a steadying breath. "Can you tell me your names?" Her voice was calm, gentle. "My name is Eli," the first voice said, small and certain. A pause. "And I'm Mia," the second replied, the whisper still there, though steadier. Lena noted their clear pronunciation. Smart kids, despite their fear. "All right, Eli and Mia. Can you tell me where you are?" Silence crackled through the line. Rain swallowed their words. Lena pressed the repeat button, letting her training guide her. "I can't move," Eli whispered. "We didn't eat for days." Tears threaded through his tone, but they held him on the line. Lena's jaw tightened. "If you can, move toward a window or door where you can see outside. Can you do that?" The twins exchanged hushed words, their voices overlapping. Lena waited. Then, "It's the old green house on Willow Street." The address rang a warning bell. Calls from that neighborhood were never simple. Lena's fingers flew across the console, relaying location coordinates to the nearest patrol units and ambulance. She watched the map indicator blink into life. "Help is on the way," she told them, voice soft but firm. "Stay on the line, okay?" A strange hush followed. Then a single urgent question from Mia. "Will they bring us food?" Lena paused, heart aching. "Yes," she promised. "They'll bring you something to eat right away." She heard Mia breathe out. Relief and fear tangled in that exhale. Lena stayed on the line as patrol units and medics were dispatched, coordinating with firefighters in case forced entry was needed. She could almost feel the twins' hunger through the thin wire, their small bodies carrying too many hours without nourishment. Each dispatch call felt heavier now, loaded with the weight of human vulnerability. Lena's training advised detachment, but tonight she felt every pang of hunger alongside those two children. Protocol demanded she remain professional, but her heart urged her to do more. She noted the dispatch tag, filed the call, and told the arriving officers to prioritize welfare checks. "Eli, Mia," she said gently, "I'm going to stay on the line until help gets to you. You're not alone, okay?" Another pause, a catch in Mia's voice. "Thank you," she whispered. Lena offered the smallest of smiles, though no one could see it. "Just hold on." Outside, the rain beat. But inside the station, the world felt suspended around that one desperate whisper. Help was on its way, but Lena knew the real rescue would take longer. Hours, days, maybe weeks of care. Yet this first step, this simple promise of food and safety, was already a lifeline. As she monitored the responders converging on Willow Street, Lena held on to that whispered plea, determined it would not go unanswered. A patrol car pulled to a stop beneath a flickering street lamp, its spotlight cutting through the downpour. Officers Rivera and Chang stepped onto the cracked pavement, their boots splashing in shallow puddles. The greenhouse loomed ahead, shutters hanging crookedly and paint peeling like curled leaves. Rivera rapped on the door with gloved knuckles. Silence answered. He tried again, more firmly. Only the hiss of rain and the distant hum of traffic responded. Chang checked the porch window, peering through grime. Inside, the entryway was dim, the floor strewn with paper plates and empty cereal boxes. An overturned chair lay against the wall. Rivera exchanged a look with Chang, then radioed for backup. They pulled on flashlights and pushed the door. It creaked open on swollen hinges. Their voices called out, echoing through the emptiness. "Police! Fire department!" Chang swept the beam across the living room. A television sat on a rickety stand, its screen cracked and dark. The smell of stale milk and damp wood pressed against their senses. Rivera followed the beam into the hallway, past scuffed walls where children's drawings had once hung. A single scribble remained pinned by a thumbtack. Two stick figures beneath a sun labeled Eli and Mia. Blood drained from Rivera's face. He signaled Chang, and they moved quietly through the house, clearing rooms with practiced precision. Each bedroom door revealed the same story: barren floors, unmade beds, only thin mattresses stained with sweat and dried tear tracks. No backpacks, no jackets, just two small sets of footprints in the dust leading toward the rear of the house. At the kitchen doorway, Chang crouched beside the empty refrigerator. Shelves stood bare, save for a single open jar of applesauce, its contents sticky and rancid. He snapped a photo with his body cam. Rivera's light caught movement in the corner, a collapsed booster seat once attached to a chair, its straps frayed. He checked the latch under the table. It was broken. The children must have tried to climb up. He radioed dispatch. "We have visual confirmation of neglect. No occupants. Forcible entry needed." Within minutes, a fire engine arrived, firefighters prying a rear window open. Rivera and Chang stood back as they climbed inside, boots crunching broken glass. From beyond the kitchen, a distant rustle hinted at life. Rivera motioned Chang forward. They advanced toward the sound, breath held. At the top of the basement stairs, the rustle grew, a shuffle of bare feet on wood. Rivera called again, "Police! Come out with your hands up!" The twins emerged, pale and gaunt, eyes wide. Eli stumbled forward, arms weak by his sides. Mia followed, tremors in her limbs. Chang lowered his flashlight so its circle rested on them. "We're here to help," Rivera said softly, kneeling. The silent home gave way to urgent whispers. As the twins reached for the officers, soggy clothes clinging to their skeletal frames, the officers saw the full toll of 3 days without food, hollow cheeks, hollow stares, a desperation that echoed the whisper Lena had never forgotten. In that still, abandoned house, the silent home became a refuge at last. In the wake of neglect, compassion had arrived. Rain pattered on the window of the dispatch center as Lena settled back into her seat, gloves discarded, fingers hovering. Above the console, the adrenaline from the field report still thrummed in her veins. She watched the map. Officers Rivera and Chang circled the block, their icons blinking beside the dark outline of the greenhouse. She needed to stay sharp. Anything could change. Her headset crackled. Above the usual city traffic, she caught a soft, familiar voice. "Dispatch." It was Mia. Lena's chest clenched. The call hadn't even been 20 minutes ago. "Eli and Mia," Lena said gently. "You're still on the line?" "We're scared," Mia whispered, voice tiny. "There's someone in the room." Lena swallowed. "Who do you see, Mia?" Silence broken only by the hiss of rain. Then Eli, voice steadier but edged with alarm. It's a man. He's shining a light." Her heart sank. The officers hadn't radioed any additional units inside. They were meant to be with the twins now. Lena clicked the button to patch directly into the officers' radio chatter. "Rivera, Chang, dispatch. Are you with the children?" "Affirmative, dispatch," Rivera responded. His voice was firm but contained worry. "We've got them. In the kitchen. No sign of anyone else." Mia's voice piped up again, frantic. "He's upstairs." Lena's pulse raced. "Mia, stay where you are." "Eli, sit down where the officers can see you. Do you hear my voice?" Yes, Eli whispered. Good, help is right there. She muted her mic and keyed the channel. All units, be advised. Possible additional occupant inside. Proceed with caution. Over her shoulder, a second dispatcher glanced up. Lena gave her a quick nod. No time for questions. She unmuted. Mia, where exactly is he? I think he's by the stairs, near the front door, she whispered. Eli, can you describe him? Lena asked. Eli's whisper wavered. Tall, black boots, he's shining a flashlight. Lena keyed the officers again. Rivera, Chang. The twins report someone upstairs near the front door. Confirm sweep of the second floor. Copy that, Chang responded. Lena heard the static as he climbed the stairs. She kept Mia and Eli talking to calm them. Can you tell me your favorite color, Mia? Blue, Mia murmured. And yours, Eli? Red. Lena smiled at the simplicity, even as her mind raced. Okay, Mia in blue, Eli in red, remember that. She turned back to the console. Backup units were arriving, the nearest only blocks away. On the radio, Chang's voice, tense. Dispatch? I'm at the top of the stairs. No one here. Check the hallway, Lena urged, voice steady. Nothing, Chang said, but I hear breathing behind a door. Closet. Dispatch. Lena's stomach twisted. Keep your light off. Stand by. She clicked to the fire department channel. Firefighters had keys too. Fire to dispatch. Can you confirm entrance through rear window? Confirmed, came the reply. A door creaked open somewhere in the greenhouse's depths. Behind her, the center was a blur. Calls in queue, maps, officer locations, all secondary to the tiny voices still on the line. Chang, Lena said softly, you're closest. Open the closet door, slowly. Static, then a soft cough. Roger. Lena held her breath. Then Chang's voice, half relieved, half stunned. Dispatch, I've got 2 small kids in a closet. Relief flooded her. Chang, look under the blankets. Confirm it's not anyone dangerous. After a tense moment, just the twins, dispatch. They're huddled together. Mia's voice fragile. Is it safe? Safe, Lena promised. Rivera and Chang will bring you out in just a second. Can you hold on? They're crying, Eli said. It's okay, Lena soothed. Help is here. Footsteps approached. Moments later, Rivera's calm voice. Dispatch, twins. In custody. They're cold, scared, but okay. Lena exhaled, fingers shaking as she keyed off. Back on the speaker, she heard the twins' muffled sobs. You did great, she said gently. We'll get you warm blankets and food. Eli's whisper so small. Thank you, dispatch. You're welcome, Lena replied, voice thick. You're safe now. As she watched the officers lead Eli and Mia downstairs, Lena closed her eyes for a heartbeat. 2 voices on the line, terrified, hopeful, had guided her through another night. And now the silent home was finally breaking its hush, replaced by footsteps and urgent voices determined to make it safe once more. The dispatch center hummed with white noise, distant sirens, ringing lines, and the soft hum of computer fans. Lena leaned forward, eyes fixed on the screen. She had stayed on the line with Eli and Mia until officers confirmed they were safe, then transferred them to medical responders. Now she watched the blinking icons of patrol units and EMS converge on the greenhouse's coordinates. Despite the progress, a knot of unease tightened in her chest. Protocol said calls like this should follow a clear sequence. Initial call, dispatch response, field confirmation, and handoff to medical or social services. This call had unraveled neatly until it hadn't. Rivera had found the twins, but the silent home suggested deeper issues. Lena tapped her headset. Unit 23, update? Rivera's voice crackled back. Twins are stable and being checked by paramedics. No other occupants in sight. Copy, Lena replied, though the words felt hollow. She switched the screen view to social services contacts. If neglect was confirmed, a welfare referral would follow. But she hesitated. She knew Lena from social services was on hold, waiting for Rivera's clearance. Dispatch protocol required her to connect the case immediately. Yet something about the silence that had greeted Rivera and Chang nagged at her. No frantic parents, screaming, no desperate guardians, only two children alone. What if a parent was hiding in a shadowed room? What if something worse awaited behind locked doors, yet unsearched? A fellow dispatcher, Mark, glanced over. "Everything okay?" Lena forced a smile. "Just running through the checklist." She cleared her throat. "Unit 23, can you confirm all rooms on the second floor have been cleared?" 7 seconds passed. "Negative," Rivera said finally. "We've checked the bedrooms and closets. Wasn't in living area either." "Dispatch to all units," Lena called into the mic. "We may have an unaccounted adult inside. Code 3, assistance to the greenhouse, second floor sweep. Update on welfare referral on hold until scene is secured." She watched as additional units acknowledged. The map showed 3 more officers redirecting their routes. She punched into the field supervisor's channel. "Supervisor Calhoun, request immediate entry and full sweep." Calhoun's gruff voice responded, "Copy dispatch, en route." Lena exhaled, regretting the delay. She keyed her mic again. "EMS, stand by. Social services, stand by for referral." The center fell into an uneasy lull. Phones rang, but Lena ignored them. Her gaze stayed locked on the screen, tracking officer movements, heartbeat in binary signals. A sudden rush of static drew her attention back. It was Mia's number again. Alarm spiked in her chest. Children's lines should have been closed. Once medics took over, protocol forbade direct callbacks, but she couldn't ignore it. She pressed the button. "This is dispatch." Silence. Then a trembling whisper. "Dispatch, can you hear me?" Lena's heart lurched. "Mia? Where are you?" "Eli, he's crying. I don't like it here." Her breath caught. She stabbed the mic. "Where are you, Mia? Are the officers with you?" "Not anymore." The line crackled. "They said to wait, but then they left." Lena's blood ran cold. "Left? They left? I couldn't see them. I'm scared." Her voice broke. Dispatch screens blurred around Lena. She gripped the console to stay steady. She shouldn't have let the line close. She should have ensured the twins were escorted in the same vehicle as officers. Now, a protocol failure threatened their safety. "Stay on the line," Lena ordered, breath rushing. "Eli, are you there?" "I'm here," Eli said, voice muffled, trembling. "We're in the basement." Basement. The officers had swept the second floor, but the basement, Lena realized, hadn't been checked. Chemical smell had wafted up earlier, but she'd dismissed it as dampness. Now that dismissal felt like a mistake. She punched in the basement. "Code for Calhoun. Supervisor Calhoun. Immediate team to basement. Possible miners trapped. GI 210. I need that location sealed off." All around, voices rose in urgency, units confirmed, and the map icons redirected downward into the house's footprint. Lena stayed on the line with the twins guiding them. "Stay against the far. Wall by the staircase. Officers are coming back. Talk to me until they get there, okay?" Eli's weak, "Okay, dispatch," came through. Lena's chest ached, but she focused, repeating their names. Their favorite colors, any detail to keep them focused until help returned. Protocol had been bent. Lines reopened, procedures improvised, but she refused to let doubt cost too young. Lives! Outside, new boots approached the greenhouse, and Lena held onto the twins' whispers, determined that next time, silence would at last be broken by rescue, not oversight. Sirens cut through the night as the second team of officers swarmed the greenhouse. Lena watched the map, heart pounding. The basement icon flickered under the house's footprint, 2 dots now surrounded by blue triangles. Every second felt like an hour. She keyed her mic. Officer Diaz, confirm entry to basement? Dispatch, we're forcing the door now, came the reply, breathless. Lena exhaled, but her pulse thundered. She toggled her screen to the live feed from Chang's body cam, now relayed through the mobile command unit. The image was grainy, a battered wooden door with rusted hinges. Chang's gloved hand braced a shoulder as Rivera wielded a pry bar. Dispatch, we need a minute, Rivera said. Lena counted silently. 60, 65, 70 seconds. Protocol-mandated patient welfare above all. These were children's lives hidden behind that door. She tapped the keyboard, tracking. EMS units converging on the front. Firefighters readied flashlights and a stretcher. A burst of light illuminated Chang's determined face. The door finally gave way with a groan. Lena's breath caught. Chang and Rivera stepped into the darkness. Chang's light swung right to left, revealing concrete walls stained by years of neglect. Their footsteps echoed. She heard Chang's whisper, "Dispatch, twins in sight." Relief and renewed tension warred in her chest. She said into her mic, "Hold on, I'm with you." In the body cam feed, Eli clung to the far wall, knees drawn to his chest. Mia crouched beside him, arms wrapped around her brother. Their faces, illuminated by a flashlight beam, were pale, eyes wide, hollow with hunger and fear. "Eli, Mia," Rivera called gently, "we're here." The twins flinched but stayed put. Lena's voice crackled through Chang's earpiece. "Tell them to stay where they are and hold my voice in their heads." Chang knelt beside them. "Remember, Mia's favorite color is blue. Wear it like a shield. Eli's is red. Feel the warmth of red in your chests." Mia's voice trembled. I see red shoes," she whispered. "Good," Chang said. "We're coming for you." In dispatch, Lena's fingers flew, coordinating EMS staging and a direct route to the basement entrance. She flagged the paramedic team, 2 medics, IV kits, thermal blankets. On screen, Rivera gently touched each. Twins' shoulder. "My name is Rivera," he said. "We're your friends now. I need you to walk toward the stairs, 1 step at a time. Can you do that, Eli?" A pause, then Eli nodded. Mia squeezed her brother's hand. "Okay," Larson said, helping Eli rise. Chang steadied Mia. Together, the 4 shuffled toward the stairs, leaving footprints in the dusty floor. Lena watched, breath held. She tracked each step, willing them upward. Behind the team, a second officer guarded the space, flashlight sweeping for any other dangers. At the top of the stairs, Chang crouched to meet the twins. "Almost there," he said. Rivera's light caught Mia's cheeks wet with tears. "It's okay," he whispered. "You're safe." They reached the landing. Rivera signaled EMS. 2 firefighters and paramedics filed down, wrapping thermal blankets around the twins' shoulders. Riverine slipped a warming pack inside Eli's coat. "We've got you," he murmured. Back in dispatch, Lena allowed herself a momentary relief. The twins were out of the basement. She updated all units. Twins in EMS custody, no other occupants found. Paramedics assessed the siblings for dehydration and hypoglycemia. Rivera reported from the stairwell, voice ragged. "Dispatch. They're alive, but they're weak. Sending both to Mercy Children's Hospital." "Copy," Lena said. "Notify. CPS and send liaison." She tapped the welfare referral. "Urgent," she added. She stayed on the field channel, listening to Rivera's soft encouragements as the twins were guided upstairs. Mia stroked the blanket's edge. Eli closed his eyes, leaning against a firefighter's leg. Lena peeked at the clock. 5 minutes later, the medics carried the twins out, placing them gently on the stretcher. The rain had eased outside. A pale dawn light began to seep through the front windows. Rivera wiped his brow. "Dispatch, children. En route." "Thank you." "Thank you," Lena whispered back, voice thick. She ended the transmission, then removed her headset. The room spun lightly. With the immediate crisis over, she closed her eyes and let the silence settle. Racing, the clock had saved 2 lives tonight, but the long hours of recovery lay ahead. For now, the basement was silent, empty except for echoes. Outside, the world waited to wake. Inside, Lena exhaled, relief and exhaustion mingling in the fragile dawn. Thunder rumbled overhead as the ambulance's red and blue lights danced across the neighborhood. Paramedics carried Eli and Mia down the cracked concrete path toward the front porch of the greenhouse. Officer Rivera stood at the top step, flashlight in one hand, keys in the other. Rain had slowed to a drizzle, and a cold wind tugged at his raincoat. He glanced at Chang, who nodded behind him. Rivera stepped forward and fitted the key into the lock. The brass turned with a reluctant click, and the door creaked open on swollen hinges. He raised his flashlight, its beam cutting through the dim interior. The doorframe shook with each earthquake of thunder, as though the house itself trembled under the weight of what had happened inside. Rivera took a shallow breath and stepped aside, motioning for the paramedics to pass. The first medic, Jensen, navigated the stretcher through the threshold. He paused, headlamp illuminating the entryway. Shoes stripped off to one side, a trail of muddy footprints leading toward a narrow hallway. A half-eaten apple lay on the floor, skin curling at the edges, abandoned hours ago. Jensen exchanged a look with his partner Lee, who carried a medical bag and a thermal blanket. Lee's jaw tightened. This was no ordinary neglect call. Rivera followed the medics into the foyer, Chang close on his heels, with his body cam rolling. Water dripped from the ceiling, where a loose shingle had allowed rain to seep in. The foyer walls were painted pale yellow once, now streaked with dirt, and scrawled in places with childish handwriting, letters wobbling unevenly. EMILOVEYOU, the message read in shaky scrawl. Rivera felt a pang of guilt for not noticing it sooner. Jensen adjusted the stretcher's angle, pivoting gently to avoid debris. "Watch your step," Lee warned. Rivera crouched to pick up a small wooden toy, a red truck missing a wheel. He held it for a moment, then set it, carefully on the nearest table, as if to preserve a fragment of the twins' innocence. The twins lay wrapped in thermal blankets, eyes half-lidded, faces smeared with dirt and tears. Mia's small hand gripped Eli's arm. Rivera knelt beside them. "You're safe now," he said softly. "They're taking you somewhere warm." Mia blinked up at him, her lips chapped. "Will they feed us?" she asked, voice brittle. "Lots," Jensen replied, resting a comforting hand on her blanket. "You'll have pancakes if you like." Mia gave a faint nod. Rivera closed his eyes briefly, grateful the children were in good hands, then rose and turned his light toward the hallway. The paramedics rolled the stretcher forward. Lee paused at the hallway's threshold, shining her headlamp down the narrow corridor that led to the living room. Rivera joined her. He swung his flashlight to the left toward the staircase leading up, then to the right, where the basement door sat closed. The handle was scratched, as though tried from the inside. Rivera's gaze drifted upward to the stairs. "Think there's anything else?" he asked, voice low. Chang stepped beside him. "Not on the first floor," he said, "but I haven't cleared the basement." He tapped his cam to record. Rivera nodded. "We'll get to it. But first, these kids." Jensen and Lee maneuvered the stretcher through a side doorway onto the front porch. Rivera stepped back, holding the door wide. He watched as the ambulance's rear doors closed, then the engine idled to life. Lights pulsed on the porch rails. As paramedics secured the stretcher straps, Mia stirred, nestling closer to Eli, and he looked up at Rivera with exhausted eyes. "Good luck," Lee called as the ambulance pulled forward, siren off but lights still spinning. Rivera lowered the door. His flashlight beam caught the worn welcome mat, its letters faded. He pressed the mat flat, then looked up at the houses. Dark windows. The silent green house that had hidden two small lives for days now stood exposed. Rivera clicked off his bodycam and stepped onto the porch, boots splashing in rainwater. He took one last look at the threshold where rescue had begun. The door shut behind him with a soft thud, sealing in echoes of hunger and fear. Rivera pocketed the key and turned to Chang. "Let's clear the basement." Chang nodded, raising his flashlight. Together they crossed the creaking floorboards back into the silent house, determined to uncover every secret it still held. The kitchen was colder than the rest of the house, the tile floor slick with rain, tracked in by boots. Rivera and Chang swept their flashlights across the counters. Cabinets hung open, their empty shelves echoing the twins' hunger. One cabinet still bore a sticky smear where a can of beans had once rested. Another held only dusty glass jars that rattled faintly when Chang nudged them with his flashlight handle. Rivera opened the refrigerator door. Inside, the light flickered weakly. A solitary bottle of ketchup sat on the top shelf, its label stained and peeling. The eggs compartment stood empty. The milk drawer contained a single, half-empty jug of sour-smelling adolescence. Chang crouched to inspect the vegetable drawer. Dried lettuce leaves clung to one corner, brittle and brown. Rivera followed the trail of emptiness to the pantry, where rows of boxes, rice, cereal, pasta, had once stood. Now only an open box of stale saltine crackers remained, its contents reduced to crumbs. They moved systematically, cabinet by cabinet, removing random items left behind. A chipped coffee mug, a single tarnished spoon, a plastic bag bearing the logo of a dollar store. Rivera photographed each sterile shelf, each peeling corner where a label still marked flour or sugar. He thought of kids scavenging for crumbs, searching for any morsel hidden in these empty spaces. Chang's beam found the sink, where two enamel pans lay stacked, their surfaces scratched and stained. The faucet dripped, each drop echoing like a ticking clock. Rivera shut it off at the valve. The dripping ceased, leaving a ringing silence. Above the sink, a single handwritten note was taped to the cabinet. "Go to sleep." The letters were blocky, as though drawn by someone not yet steady with a pen. Rivera exchanged a look with Chang. They had seen neglect cases before, but this held a cruelty born of calculated concealment. Chang shone his flashlight under the cabinet, revealing a thin layer of crumbs on the bottom panel. Crumbs long since, too old to eat. He swept them into the palm of his glove and held them up. Rivera placed them in an evidence bag, physical proof of prolonged deprivation. They advanced to the stove. The burners were crusted with burned grease, as if unattended. For weeks. One burner was missing a knob. The adjacent drawer held a rusted matchbox, empty. Rivera tapped the stovetop trays. They rattled hollowly, empty of pans or pots. He flicked on the stove light. The oven's interior was dark and spotless, as though nothing had ever been baked. Chang's beam found the sink's disposal opening. Rivera glanced at him. Neither spoke. If only the twins had known about garbage tied to starvation, they might have checked there first. But they were children, and children trust their homes to provide. Rivera sealed the disposal hatch with duct tape, preserving its contents for later forensic work. At the counter's far end, they discovered a small stack of takeout menus tied with string, fast food chains, pizzerias, sandwich shops. Rivera lifted the top one. It was 3 months old. Each menu carried the faint smell of grease and cardboard. Chang slipped them into an evidence folder. "They planned deliveries," he said quietly, voice flat, but never ordered. A faint sound drifted from the living room, a scuff of boots on linoleum. Rivera signaled Chang, and they swept toward the sound. In the darkened living room, a single chair sat overturned. On its seat lay a handheld video game cartridge, its label scratched beyond recognition. Rivera pocketed it carefully, the twins' last refuge, brief escapes in digital worlds that had provided no sustenance. They returned to the kitchen where every silo of emptiness spoke louder than words. Cabinets stripped of life, a refrigerator, reduced to a moldy shell, pantry shelves that might as well have been painted oven white. These silent indictments would carry weight in court. Rivera turned off his flashlight. In the oppressive darkness, he felt the twins' hunger still lingering in every nook, every empty space. He patted Chang on the shoulder. "Let's finish the sweep." Chang nodded, and together they moved toward the basement door, leaving behind the empty cabinets, but carrying each vacant shelf with them in their minds. Detective Rivera knelt beside a small table in the mobile command van, arms folded across his chest. Across from him sat Eli and Mia, bundled in donated coats, their knees drawn to their chests. The paramedics had cleared them medically, and now social worker Jensen had arrived with coloring books and juice. But Rivera knew that paperwork waited, statements to record, truths to coax out. He offered a gentle smile. "Hey, you two. You did really well back there." Mia glanced at her brother before meeting his eyes. "I was so scared," she admitted, voice barely above a whisper. Eli reached over and squeezed her hand. "That's okay," Rivera said. "You're safe. Now, can you tell me what happened before you called dispatch?" Eli swallowed, gaze fixed on his scuffed boots. Mom and Dad weren't home," he began, voice shaky. "They drove away one morning and didn't come back." Rivera nodded. "How long?" Mia's lip trembled. 3 days. Rivera's heart clenched. "And you didn't have any food?" "We looked in every cabinet," Eli said, head bobbing. "We found nothing." He paused, blinking back tears. "We tried to eat cereal, but it was gone. We tried to eat pasta, but the box was empty." Mia's voice wavered. "I hid the last cracker in my pocket." She pulled her hand out and showed a few crumbs wrapped in tissue. Rivera leaned forward. "You did the right thing by calling for help." He reached into his coat pocket and handed her a pack of crackers. Mia accepted it with a small nod, eyes wide. Eli spoke up again. "Dad locks the basement door sometimes. Mom said don't go there." His voice cracked. "We thought maybe there was food down there." Rivera exchanged a look with Jensen, who quietly scribbled notes. "Did you ever try?" Mia shifted. "Once, but the door was locked, and we were too scared of Dad." Silence pressed in. Rivera spoke softly. "You know, you can tell us anything here. No one will be angry with you." Eli's small shoulders hunched. I took 2 slices of bread. Just a couple. But Dad caught me. He yelled at me and told me to go back upstairs, that we weren't allowed to have food without permission." His eyes darted to Mia. "We were starving." Tears welled in Mia's eyes. "I stole a granola bar and hid it under my pillow." She sniffed. It tasted like sunshine. Rivera's throat constricted. He wiped a hand over his face and cleared his voice. "Thank you for telling me. That must have been very hard." Mia's expression flickered. "We didn't mean to do anything wrong." "You didn't," Rivera assured them. "You had to survive." He glanced at Jensen, who returned a small nod. Rivera turned back to the twins. "I'm proud of you for being brave." Eli's lower lip trembled. "We heard Dad and Mom fighting before they left." His voice dropped. "Mom said we'd be fine and she'd come back, but she never did." Jensen set her pen down. "Detective, are we sure they left on their own?" Rivera's jaw tightened. "From what officers found, the front door was always unlocked when they checked. No signs of forced entry." He looked at the twins. "Did your parents take anything with them?" Mia thought. "They grabbed suitcases." She held up 2 small fists. "We hid under the bed. We heard them talking about money." Eli continued, voice stronger now. Dad said Mum spent all their money at the hospital. Mum said it wasn't her fault. Then they got in the car and drove away. We waited every day for them to come back." His voice cracked again. "We thought they'd see our messages on the fridge, but they never did." Rivera and Jensen exchanged a glance. Rivera turned back to the twins. "You did exactly the right thing by calling 911. You kept each other safe." He paused. "Do you feel like you can stay here with us until we find a safe place for you both?" Mia nodded slowly. "Can we have pancakes?" Her voice was hopeful. Rivera allowed a faint smile. "Pancakes are next on the list." He unclipped a police badge from his coat and held it out. "I'm Detective Rivera. If you ever need me, you tell the officer at the station that Detective Rivera will help you." Eli's eyes brightened. "Thank you, Detective Rivera." As the twins tucked their coloring books under their arms, Jensen ushered them toward a waiting squad car. Rivera watched them go, stomach knotting with worry and resolve. Their confessions of empty cabinets, of locked doors, of broken promises would guide every next step. But for now, the clock ticked on, and the race to find them a home had just begun. The fluorescent lights of the hospital cafeteria felt harsh, but Eli and Mia hardly noticed as they sat across from each other at a small table. Plates piled with pancakes, scrambled eggs, and fruit had been placed before them. Mia tore a piece of pancake and held it in front of her brother. He shook his head, voice barely audible. "I'm not hungry." Mia's eyes brimmed. "You need to eat." Rivera had warned them. Real healing would take more than food. Lena had echoed the same when she visited, but the twins' silence spoke of wounds deeper than empty stomachs. Eli traced the syrup pooling on his plate. He whispered, "I'm too scared." Mia reached across, brushing his sleeve. Jensen, the social worker, sat nearby, clipboard resting untouched on her lap. She leaned in, voice gentle. "It's okay to be scared. You've been through a lot." Eli's gaze flicked to her. "Will they bring Mom and Dad here?" "I don't know," Jensen admitted. "But while we figure that out, you're safe here." Mia's jaw tightened as she gulped down a bite of fruit. "It doesn't feel like home." Silence settled. The cafeteria buzzed around them. Nurses laughing, doctors trading stories. But none of it reached the twins. Beyond hunger lay fear and longing. The ache of abandonment. Rivera approached, tray in hand. He sat down beside them, offering a reassuring nod. "Hey," he said softly, "can I tell you what happens next?" Eli and Mia exchanged a glance before nodding. Rivera described the plan. Temporary foster placement with Ms. Calder in the next town, her calm voice promising warmth and routine. He spoke of visits with Jensen and supervised time with their parents if they returned. His words were careful but hopeful. Mia's lower lip quivered. "Will they be angry?" "We don't think so," Rivera said. "They were in trouble. They didn't know what you needed," Eli whispered. "They never listened." Rivera's heart tightened. "Now someone is." He slid a small pad of paper across the table. "If you ever feel scared or need anything, write it here. I'll check it every day." Mia's eyes flicked from the paper to Rivera. "A diary. A way to share how you feel," Rivera explained, "even if you can't say it out loud." Jensen added, "You can also draw, if that's easier." She tapped Mia's hand. "Draw me a picture of something that makes you feel safe." Mia picked up a crayon from Jensen's box, blue, her favorite. She pressed it to paper, tentative. Lines forming a small house with a bright sun overhead. Eli watched, then picked up a red crayon. He drew two stick figures holding hands beneath a tree. Mia added a swing. They sat side by side, coloring while the cafeteria's din faded into background noise. Plates empty, they focused on the paper, the crayons smoothing over fear. Rivera and Jensen shared a glance. Beyond hunger, the twins needed to rebuild trust, not just in food, but in people. When the drawings were done, Mia set them on the table with a small smile. "Home," she whispered. Eli nodded, a tremor of relief in his eyes. Rivera patted the papers gently. "That's beautiful." Jensen closed her clipboard, rising. "Time to get you both ready for Ms. Calder's house." As they stood, Mia hesitated, eyes on Rivera. "Thank you," Eli echoed, quieter but sincere. Rivera offered a warm smile. "I'll see you tomorrow." They left the cafeteria together, 3 steps toward a new life. Beyond hunger lay fear, loss, and uncertainty still haunting the twins. But with each crayon stroke, each gentle promise, they took the first steps beyond mere survival toward something resembling hope. Rain drummed against the ambulance windshield as paramedic Jackson slipped on his gloves. Eli and Mia lay on adjacent, stretchers in the back, blankets tucked tightly around their shoulders. Neither spoke. Exhaustion clung to them like damp clothes. Jackson checked Mia's IV line while Lee monitored Eli's vitals. Neither child registered pain from hunger anymore. But shadows crossed their eyes, memories too heavy for small shoulders. "Hey," Jackson said softly, crouching beside Mia. "Do you remember our promise?" Mia blinked, confusion in her glance. Jackson nodded toward the small notepad Rivera had given them. Mia clutched it in her gloved hand. "Can you write me a note when you need anything?" Jackson asked. Mia's lip trembled as she traced the pad's edge. "Even if I'm scared?" "Especially then," Jackson said kindly. Mia pressed the pad to her heart. Down the hall, Lee spoke quietly. To Eli, "You did great back there, champ." Eli forced a nod but didn't look up. Lee reached into his coat pocket and pulled out a child-sized cell phone, preloaded with the numbers of Officer Rivera, social worker Jensen, and the foster agency. "It's for emergencies," Lee explained. "If you ever feel unsafe or need help, you press this button." He pointed to a single red key labeled Help. Eli's gaze met Lee's. Fear flickered, then melted into cautious hope. He tapped the key once. A soft beep confirmed the connection. Lee smiled. "That's all it takes." Later that evening, in their temporary foster home, Ms. Calder's small living room was quiet. A single lamp cast a warm pool of light over a patchwork sofa. The twins sat side by side, clutching the notepad and cell phone. Ms. Calder knelt before them. "This is your room," she said gently, opening a door to reveal 2 narrow beds, each topped with a bright quilt. A bookshelf held new copies of their favorite stories, animal tales, space adventures. Mia's eyes flicked to the shelves. "Can I read?" "Of course," Ms. Calder replied. She closed the door softly. As they settled onto their beds, Jackson and Lee stood in the hallway, exchanging a glance. "They have what they need," Lee said, relief in his voice. "But will they use it?" Jackson wondered. At bedtime, the twins lay beneath their quilts, the pad and phone on the bedside table. Mia reached for the pad and scribbled a single word. "Sad." She placed it on the table. Eli picked up the phone, thumb hovering over the red key. He didn't press it. Instead, he set it back down. Silence fell. Mia whispered, "I miss Mom." Eli turned, offering her a slight smile. "Me too." He reached over and squeezed her hand. Down the hall, through the closed door, social worker Jensen watched from the doorway, clipboard in hand. She read Mia's note, then leaned to speak quietly into her radio. "They've made their first expression. Let's check on them in the morning." Hours later, the house lay still under soft rain. In the twins' room, moonlight spilled across the quilts. Their breathing evened and sleep claimed them. On the bedside table, the notepad lay beside the emergency phone, tools born of fear and loss, but also beacons of hope. Should the darkness Return, their voices would no longer be whispers in the night. Help was just a call or a scribble away. The sun rose pale and uncertain as social worker Jensen pulled into Ms. Calder's driveway. Her briefcase sat on the passenger seat, heavy with reports and care plans. She took a deep breath before stepping into the quiet morning. The front door opened before she could knock. Ms. Calder stood there, kindness creasing her eyes. "Good morning," Jensen said, offering a warm smile. "I hope I'm not intruding." "Not at all," Ms. Calder replied. "Come on in." Inside, the house smelled faintly of cinnamon and oatmeal, breakfast already brewing. Jensen's stomach rumbled. She followed Ms. Calder down a hallway lined with framed photos of her nieces and nephews. At the end, a small sitting area held 2 children's chairs. Jensen sank into one as Ms. Calder busied herself at the stove, ladling oatmeal into bowls. The twins appeared, bleary-eyed in matching pajamas. Mia clutched her notepad. Eli hovered near the door. They exchanged nervous glances. Jensen cleared her throat. "Good morning, Eli. Good morning, Mia." "Morning," Eli mumbled. Mia's voice trembled. "Morning." Jensen held out her briefcase. "I'm here to help you tell your story." She pulled out a folder labeled Case Plan and set it on the table. "We'll talk about what happened, figure out what you need, and plan for you to feel safe." Eli shifted on his seat. "We told the police." Jensen nodded. "You were very brave. This is the next step. I need to understand how you're doing, how you feel here. Is it okay if we talk?" Mia fiddled with her notepad. We're not with Dad anymore." "Not right now," Jensen said gently. "We're working to make sure you're safe and cared for." She poured milk into their bowls and set each child's favorite toppings, blueberries for Mia, banana slices for Eli. The act of breakfast felt sacred, a small ceremony of care. They ate in silence for a moment. Jensen watched them, noting how Mia carefully counted blueberries, how Eli pushed oats around his bowl. Finally, Jensen opened the folder. "Mia, can you tell me how you feel when you wake up here?" Mia stared at her bowl. "Different." Her voice quivered. "Better, but I still feel scared." "That makes sense," Jensen said. "Being in a new place can feel strange. You're safe here, but it takes time to feel it." She jotted notes. Eli's fork clinked against the bowl. "I don't trust pancakes," he said flatly. Jensen smiled. "Understandable." She closed her folder. "I want to offer you both ongoing support, therapy, group activities, a way to connect with other kids. Would you like that?" Mia nodded slowly. "I like the coloring book." Eli's eyes met hers. "I want to do karate again." Jensen's pen paused. "Karate? That sounds great." She scribbled details. "I'll call the dojo today." As they finished breakfast, a gentle rapport formed. Miss Calder chimed in, asking about favorite moments of the previous day. The twins brightened, recounting how they'd sat by the window watching birds, how Miss Calder had taught them a new card game. After the table was cleared, Jensen led a short walk around the yard. She pointed out neighbor Mrs. Lee tending her flower bed and the community playground just down the street. The twins' meal-knotted stomachs and fear shadows seemed to lighten with each step. Back inside, Jensen placed her folder on the desk. "I have a few more forms to sort out, but I wanted to see you first. How would you feel about me visiting?" "Twice a week?" Mia glanced at Eli. He shrugged. "Okay." Jensen offered them both a sticker for bravery. "We'll take this one step at a time," she said. As she packed her briefcase to leave, Miss Calder thanked her for the morning's calm. Jensen stepped onto the porch and inhaled the crisp air. Behind her, the front door opened, and the twins waved, tentative, yet hopeful. Jensen walked to her car, mind already churning with resources and referrals. Today's arrival was more than paperwork. It was the first genuine step toward restoring 2 fractured lives. Beyond forms and plans, it was a promise. Someone would stand with Eli and Mia, not just in crisis, but in every quiet dawn that followed. Late afternoon sunlight filtered through the curtains into the therapy room, casting long shadows over its soft rug and child-sized furniture. Jensen adjusted the tissues on the low table and offered them to Mia, whose fingers trembled around a crayon. Eli sat nearby on a small couch, shoulders hunched, gaze fixed on a blank drawing pad. "This exercise is optional," Jensen reminded them gently, "but it can help us see things words can't always express." She placed an array of colored pencils and paper before them. Mia's blue eyes flicked to the supplies, then to Jensen. "What if I draw something bad?" "Nothing you draw will be bad," Jensen said. "This is just for you." Eli's lip curled. "I don't know what to draw." Jensen offered a soft smile. "Draw what you feel." Silence stretched. As their small hands hovered, finally Mia began, light strokes of blue, forming a wavy shape at the top of her page. Jensen leaned in. "What's that?" "A sky," Mia said quietly. "And the darkness below?" Jensen prompted. "Mia's." Hand shook as she added a jagged line of black beneath the blue. She pressed her tongue against her lip, voice low. "Sometimes I feel safe, like the sky, but there's darkness that follows me." Eli looked up, concern flickering in his eyes. He set down his pencil. "I feel it too." His page remained blank, an unspoken admission. Jensen nodded. "Those are scars you can't see on the outside." She tapped her temple lightly. "Sometimes the hardest scars are inside, where others can't notice them." Mia's shoulders slumped as tears welled. She hugged her drawing to her chest, breath hitching. Jensen reached across and placed a hand over hers. "It's okay to feel scared," she said softly, "but you're not alone in the darkness." Eli's pencil trembled as he pressed it to the paper. One cautious line formed a small stick figure huddled beneath a sloping roof. He added two smaller figures beside it, hands reaching out but not quite touching. "Is that us?" Jensen asked. Eli nodded mutely. "We tried to hold on." Jensen traced the lines with her eyes. "You held on to each other." "That's powerful." Mia wiped her cheek. "But the darkness is always there." Jensen leaned back, choosing words carefully. "The darkness stays until we shine enough light on it. Drawing it helps us bring it out of hiding." Eli lifted his head. "Does that make it weaker?" "It does," Jensen said. "Once we see it, we can weaken it together, talk about it, find tools to push it back." She slid a small box across the table. "This is a worry stone." It held smooth, polished blue glass. "When you feel the darkness creeping in, hold it in your hand and take deep breaths. You can keep it with you." Mia's fingers closed. Around the stone, warmth seeping through the glass. Eli reached for his own. Jensen smiled. "Now if you ever need that stone, or to draw, or to call Detective Rivera, you have ways to fight the unseen scars." Mia's eyes flicked to her sketch. "Will the darkness ever go away?" "Maybe not completely," Jensen admitted. "But with help, friends, therapy, drawing, talking, you learn to manage it so it doesn't control you." Eli rose and pressed his drawing into Jensen's hands. "Can you show this to Ms. Calder?" "I will," Jensen promised, "and we'll make a plan so you both feel safer at home." They packed away the pencils. Outside the glass door, sunlight softened into dusk. Jensen gathered their drawings and stones. As they left the room, Mia paused at the threshold, voice small. "Thank you for seeing us." Jensen's heart tightened. "I see you, and I always will." In the quiet therapy room, the crayon marks and worry stones lay waiting, silent tools against the scars no one could see, until now. Rainwater seeped through the cracked window frame in the twins' bedroom, dribbling onto the threadbare carpet. Mia sat on her bed, knees pulled to her chest. watching droplets carve tiny rivulets in the floor stain. Eli stood at the door, backpack slung over one shoulder, gaze fixed on the peeling wallpaper. Neither spoke until Jensen's soft knock. "May I come in?" Eli nodded, voice tight. "Sure." She stepped inside, carefully closing the door. "I have an exercise today," she said, settling onto the edge of Mia's bed. "It's called Echoes of Neglect. We're going to explore the sounds you remember from your old home." Mia frowned. "Sounds?" "Yes," Jensen replied. "Sometimes what we hear can remind us of what we experienced." She held up a small recorder. "I'd like you to tell me any sounds you remember, good or bad, and we'll record them." Eli shifted. "Like the rain?" "Exactly," Jensen said, pressing record. "Who would like to start?" Mia raised a trembling hand. "I remember the silence," she whispered. Not just quiet, but a heavy hush, like the house was breathing slow. She paused, voice distant. "I heard Dad's footsteps upstairs, slow and deliberate. Then nothing. No voices, no doors closing, just the hush." Jensen pressed pause, nodding. "Silence can be powerful. Anything else?" Mia swallowed. "The squeak of my closet door. I hid in there sometimes, praying they'd come back." Her voice cracked. "But no one ever came." Eli drew in a breath. "I remember my stomach. It growled all the time, a low rumble echoing off the kitchen walls." He closed his eyes as though reliving it. "I tried to sleep past it, but it always woke me." Jensen jotted notes, then resumed recording. "Mia?" Mia swallowed, shoulders shaking. "I remember the TV. It was always on, even when no one watched. It murmured at night. Politics, commercials, laughter. It was empty noise." She shivered as if hearing it again. Eli nodded, and the dripping faucet. He counted out loud. "Drip, drip, drip," voice flat. I'd lie awake and think, what if that drip is water for us to drink? But it was never clean. Jensen paused the recorder. She replaced it on the nightstand. "Thank you for sharing. Those echoes, silence, creaks, rumbles, they show how the house felt alive in its neglect." She drew in a steadying breath. "Now, I want you to think of sounds you hear here that feel safe." Mia's brow furrowed. "Safe sounds?" "Yes," Jensen said. "Something that reminds you you're okay." Mia's lip trembled, then she closed her eyes. After a moment, she whispered, "Rain on the tin roof. It's loud and steady. It sounds like a blanket." Eli offered, "And at night I hear the heater humming. It's a warm buzz, like a cat purring." Jensen smiled. "Those are wonderful echoes of safety and warmth." She pressed record again. "Can you describe the tin roof rain?" Mia inhaled, voice steadier. "It's a drum beat, drum, 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 covering every other sound. It makes me feel wrapped up, like nothing bad can get in." "And the heater?" Eli's smile was faint. "It's a cozy hum, soft and constant. It tells me this place wants me to be warm." Jensen stopped the recorder and tucked it away. She sat quietly, letting their words settle. "These echoes belong to you now," she said finally. "You can call on them whenever the old sounds come back." She placed a hand over each of theirs in turn. "You've given voice to neglect's echoes, and to safety's echoes as well." They rose, and Mia placed her hand on the nightstand, pressing the recorder into the wood as though grounding it. Eli ran a finger along the quilt's edge, as if tracing the heater's hum. Outside the room, the house settled around them. Rain, tapping the tin roof, the heater's soft buzz drifting from vents. Inside, the echoes of neglect had been named, and new echoes of safety claimed their place, pushing back the silence and the rumbles to make room for warmth. The conference room at Child Protective Services smelled faintly of coffee and laminated council tables. Jensen sat at one end, notepad ready. Across from her, Janet and Robert Parker adjusted their chairs, hands intertwined on the polished surface. They wore gentle expressions, hopeful but wary. Thank you for coming, Jensen began, voice steady. We'll talk through your experience, your home environment, and how you'll care for Eli and Mia. Janet settled back. We're honored you're considering us. Her voice held a tremor of excitement. Jensen nodded. Let's start with your household routine. Robert spoke first. We both work from home, Janet in marketing, me in software development. Our schedules are flexible, so we can be here for the children, Janet continued. Our house has 2 spare bedrooms. We've already prepared one with new beds, nightlights, and storage for their things. We installed child-proof locks on cleaning, supplies, and safety gates where needed. Jensen scribbled notes. Can you describe your parenting style? Robert exchanged a glance with Janet. We believe in a balance of structure and warmth, he said. We follow consistent schedules, meal times, homework, bedtime, but we also prioritize open communication. We use positive reinforcement and encourage emotional expression. Janet nodded. We use family meetings every Sunday. The kids share highs and lows, suggestions or concerns. It builds trust and connection. Jensen tapped her pen. Have you had experience with children who've experienced trauma or neglect? Janet inhaled. Yes, my niece was in foster care after her mother's illness. We supported her weekends and taught her coping strategies, journaling, music and therapy sessions. She's thriving now. Robert added, I volunteer at a youth mentoring program. I'm trained in trauma-informed care, understanding triggers and the need for patience. Jensen's pen paused. What is your support network? Janet smiled. Our neighbors, Mr. and Mrs. Singh, are retired teachers. They've offered to help with carpools or emergencies. My parents live nearby and can step in if we're delayed. Robert said, We have a housekeeper twice a week to handle chores so we can focus on the kids. Jensen noted the thorough planning. How will you handle discipline? Janet answered, We use natural consequences and time-ins, sitting together to talk through behavior rather than punitive timeouts. We believe connection fosters learning. Murmurs echoed through the room as Jensen reviewed next questions. The twins have medical needs, nutritional rehabilitation, and ongoing therapy. How will you accommodate appointments? Robert's and found Janet's. We've cleared our calendars for the first month. We built in a budget for transportation and co-pays. We'll coordinate with their current providers to ensure continuity. Janet added, We installed a home office desk in the dining area for telehealth sessions. They'll have privacy and space. Jensen looked up. Have you considered the emotional challenges of fostering siblings who've experienced neglect? Janet's voice softened. We understand there will be setbacks, trust issues, nightmares, anger. We've enrolled in an 8-week training on attachment disorders. We'll maintain therapy appointments and possibly join a support group. Robert nodded. We're committed long-term. They need stability more than anything. Jensen closed her notepad and leaned forward. You've provided detailed, thoughtful answers. I'm impressed by your preparation and empathy. CPS will conduct home visits and final background checks, but I see you as strong candidates. Janet exhaled, relief mingling with anticipation. Thank you, she said softly, glancing at Robert. Jensen offered a reassuring smile. Our goal is to ensure Eli and Mia thrive. I'll be in touch with next steps, forms, references, and scheduling the home inspection. Janet stood and extended her hand. We appreciate this opportunity. Robert followed suit. We just want to give them the love and security they deserve. As they left, Jensen watched them walk down the hallway, 2 people determined to rewrite the twins' story. In the quiet room, the echoes of past neglect gave way to the promise of a home built on preparation, compassion, and unwavering commitment. The knock at the door was tentative, almost apologetic. Jensen exchanged a glance with Robert, who had agreed to accompany her for the scheduled family visit. They rose and opened the door to find a frazzled woman with dark circles beneath her eyes, Catherine Winters, the twins' mother. Her gaze flicked between Jensen and Robert before settling on the living room where Eli and Mia sat on opposite couches, backs rigid. "Hello," Jensen said softly. "Thank you for coming." Catherine's throat bobbed as she swallowed. I need to see my children." Her voice trembled, vulnerability etched in every line of her face. "They said the visit would be today." Jensen nodded. "Yes. We arranged this so you could spend time with them and discuss a permanent plan." She offered a small smile. "Please come in." The living room felt charged as Catherine slid onto a chair facing the twins. Robert and Janet remained just outside the room, giving space. Jensen closed the door gently behind her. Catherine's gaze flicked nervously between Eli and Mia. "Hi, babies," her voice cracked. "How are you?" Mia's fingers tightened around her coloring book. She spoke quietly. "We're okay." Eli's jaw clenched. "You left us." Catherine's face crumpled. "I'm sorry. I thought I was doing the right thing." She reached out, voice pleading. I've been in treatment. I've stopped drinking. I've been in therapy. I want you back." Mia rose to her feet. "You said you'd come back after work to make dinner." Her voice was steady, despite the tears glinting in her eyes. "You never did." Eli stood beside his sister. "You promised to buy us cereal when we ran out." He held out an empty box as evidence. "It was gone." Catherine inhaled sharply. I'm sorry." Her shoulders shook. "I lost my job. I was stressed." Mia cut in. "You told us we were your priority." Catherine's eyes closed as, though bracing herself, "You are my priority." She opened her eyes, voice fierce. "I'll prove it. I'll get a new job, a new home." Eli shook his head. "You said that 3 times before." His voice broke. "And then you left again." Silence echoed, heavy as stone. Catherine's mouth opened and closed. At last she sank back, tears slipping free. "I don't know how to fix it." Jensen stepped forward. "Catherine, you must understand that promises without stability only deepen their hurt. They need certainty." Catherine wiped her cheeks. "What do I need to do?" Jensen's tone was gentle but firm. "Commit to a written plan, stable housing, employment verification, regular therapy attendance. And you must demonstrate consistency, daily check-ins, attendance at school events, at least 2 supervised visits per week." Mia's eyes narrowed. "And if you can't do that?" Jensen's gaze met Catherine's. "Then we must consider a permanent plan with a family who can provide that consistency." Catherine's hands trembled on her lap. "I understand." Her voice was small. "I'll do anything." Eli folded his arms. "We'll believe it when we see it." Mia turned away, clutching her coloring book like armor. Catherine's shoulders sagged. "I know I have to earn your trust back." Jensen nodded. "We'll set clear milestones and review them together." She offered a gentle glance to the twins. "You have a voice in this process." Catherine stood abruptly. "Thank you." She stumbled toward the door, pausing at the threshold. She looked at her children one last time, hope and regret warring in her eyes. Then she left, the door clicking softly behind her. The room held only the echoes of her broken promises. Jensen turned to the twins. "How do you feel?" Eli's jaw tightened. "Better," he said quietly. Mia nodded slowly. "We know what we need." Jensen exhaled. "Then we'll help you hold them to it." In the aftermath, the twins sat side by side, stronger together. Broken promises had cut deep, but now they had clarity and a path to demand the consistency they deserved. Night settled over Ms. Calder's house like a soft blanket. The hallway light clicked off at 9, leaving only the moonlight spilling through the twins' bedroom window. Eli lay rigid on his bed, eyes wide, staring at the ceiling. Mia sat at her bedside table, tracing the wards of her worrystone in. The half-light. A soft knock sounded on their door. Eli's body tensed, Mia's head snapped up. Jensen slipped inside, carrying a small flashlight and a thermos of warm milk. She moved quietly, careful not to let the hinges squeak. "Couldn't sleep," she whispered, setting the thermos on Mia's nightstand. Mia shook her head. Too quiet. Eli sat up, wrapping his knees to his chest. "My stomach hurts," he admitted, voice thick with memory of days without food. Jensen poured milk into 2 small cups. "For the hunger ghosts," she said softly, handing one to each of them. They drank gratefully, the warmth seeping into their chests. Eli closed his eyes. "I keep thinking I hear dishes rattling in the kitchen." Mia clutched her stone. "And I hear Dad's footsteps." Her lips trembled, like he's coming back. Jensen knelt between the beds. "Those are echoes, ghosts of what you remember, but they're not real. Tonight you're safe." She reached into her pocket and pulled out a small portable speaker. "Remember the safe sounds exercise?" She tapped the device. A soft, rain on tin roof recording filled the room. Mia inhaled, shoulders relaxing slightly. It's like a drum," she whispered. Eli's fingers traced the pattern of raindrops on the speaker. "And steady." Jensen let the rain play for a few minutes, then clicked it off. "Now, the heater hum." She switched tracks to the low mechanical buzz. The room seemed to hum in response, 7 breaths like a purr. Mia's eyes shimmered. "It's cozy." She leaned back against her pillow. Eli sighed, easing his legs over the side of the bed. "Can you leave the heater on low?" "Of course," Jensen said, rising to adjust the thermostat outside their door. She left the heater humming, a lullaby of warmth. Back inside, she sat between them. "Would you like me to stay until you fall asleep?" Mia's nod was small but certain. Eli brushed a hand over his face. "Please." Jensen smiled gently. She took out the twins' worrystones. "Hold these tonight," she said. "Whenever you feel the echoes, squeeze them and breathe." She placed 1 stone in each of their hands. A silence stretched. Comfortable now, the twins' grip on the stones tightened, then loosened as they tested the reassuring weight. The empty cups of milk gleamed on the nightstand. "I'm proud of you both," Jensen said softly. "You've come so far." Mia blinked. "Will you check on us?" "Twice," Jensen promised. "In an hour and at lights out." She stood and tucked the blanket around each of them. At the door, she paused. "Remember, if you need anything day or night, press that big red button by the desk." She turned on a small nightlight, casting a gentle glow over the room. "Thank you," Eli whispered. She nodded, stepping into the hallway. The door closed with a soft click. In the corridor, Jensen consulted her watch. 30 minutes until her next check. She exhaled, steadying her own anxiety before picking up her clipboard. Inside the bedroom, Mia pressed her worrystone, thumb brushing its cool surface. Eli lay back down, pulling the covers to his chin. The heater's hum and the tin roof rain recording played in Jensen's absence, weaving warmth and rhythm into the quiet night. Together, the twins drifted toward sleep on a vigil of gentle sounds and soft light, their unseen scars soothed, at least for one night, by the promise that someone would watch over them until the dawn. Morning light filtered through gauzy curtains as Mia and Eli emerged from their room, hesitation in each tentative step. In the kitchen, Ms. Calder was setting fruit and toast on the table. She glanced up with a warm smile. "Good morning, you two. Ready for breakfast?" Mia slid into a chair, still gripping her worrystone. Eli hovered by the counter. Jensen stood nearby with a stack of children's books. Eli cleared his throat. "Can we read together after we eat?" "Absolutely," Jensen said. "Let's fill up first." Over bowls of oatmeal sweetened with honey, they began, slowly at first, as if testing the water. Miss Calder asked about their favorite foods. Mia's eyes brightened when she described the pancakes Jackson had promised. Eli shyly admitted to wanting scrambled eggs. Their voices grew steadier with each bite. After breakfast, Jensen led them to the living room's reading nook. Pillows and stuffed animals created a cushioned corner beneath a window overlooking maple trees. She handed each a book and sat between them. "I thought we could take turns reading aloud," Jensen suggested. Mia chose a story about a brave fox. Eli picked a tale of astronauts exploring Mars. They opened their books, practiced difficult words, and shared smiles when they stumbled. Jensen offered gentle corrections and praise, clapping softly when each finished a page. Trust clicked into place with each shared laugh. Mia's shoulders relaxed, Eli's foot-tapping slowed. Their eyes met occasionally, acknowledging this small normalcy. Later, Ms. Calder appeared with sketchpads for an art project. "Let's draw our favorite place," she invited. The twins exchanged curious looks before selecting crayons and paper. Mia sketched the reading nook, pillows, books, the window, with sunlight streaming through. Eli drew the kitchen table, complete with oatmeal bowls and honey drizzles. When they finished, they placed drawings side by side. Jensen studied them. "I love how you each captured comfort," she said. "Your safe places." Mia smiled for the first time that morning. "I feel safe here." Eli nodded. "Me too." Throughout the day, small rituals wove trust like threads. At lunchtime, they helped Ms. Calder make sandwiches, their hands brushing flour and butter. Jensen guided them in setting the table, folding napkins. Each task completed earned gentle praise. "Great job. Thank you for helping." In the backyard, a soccer ball lay waiting. Ms. Calder kicked it to Eli, who hesitated before kicking back. Mia chased it afterward, laughter ringing across the lawn. Jensen joined with playful encouragement, reminding Eli it was okay to miss and try again. When he scored, everyone cheered, and Eli's grin was unguarded. That evening, after dinner, Jensen gathered the twins for a brief check-in. Mia held her worry stone, but didn't squeeze it. Jensen asked how they felt about their day. "It was nice," Mia said, voice soft but certain. "I didn't feel scared." Eli added, "I had fun playing soccer." Jensen jotted quick notes. "You both did wonderfully. Building trust takes time, day by day. Today was a big step." She showed them a sticker chart on the wall, with spaces for each day they felt safe. She handed them matching gold star, stickers for today's success. They each placed theirs on the chart, beaming. As bedtime approached, the twins prepared for another night of vigil, but this time their eyes held less fear. Jensen tucked them in and pointed to the sticker chart. "See these stars? Each one means you've mattered and been heard." Mia whispered, "I like the stars." Eli nodded. "It feels good to collect them." Jensen switched on the tin roof rain recording and left the heater humming. In the dim glow, the twins drifted off with their stones by their pillows and gold stars overhead. In the quiet that followed, Jensen and Ms. Calder exchanged a knowing glance. Morning's tentative steps had blossomed into laughter, shared stories and new routines. With each story read, each star earned, the fragile threads of trust wove stronger, promising that tomorrow would bring more moments where the twins could feel not merely safe, but truly at home. The aroma of simmering chicken soup drifted through the house as Jensen entered the kitchen, finding Ms. Calder stirring broth in a large pot. The twins hovered nearby, each holding a paper plate with a small pile of buttered toast. "This is today's lesson in nourishment," Jensen announced with a gentle smile. "We'll make a meal together." Mia eyed the pot warily. "It smells good," she admitted. Eli nodded slowly. "My stomach's growling." Ms. Calder ladled soup into 2 bowls, steam curling in the cool air. Jensen set out spoons alongside a platter of sautéed vegetables, carrots, peas, and green beans. "We'll start slow," Jensen said. "Soup first." They gathered at the table. Mia picked up her spoon and took a cautious sip. The warmth spread through her chest, and she closed her eyes. "It's comforting," she whispered. Eli followed, his eyes brightening as broth and soft chicken pieces met his tongue. He let out a small sigh of relief. "My stomach feels better." Jensen nodded. "Your bodies are remembering what real food can do." She guided Mia to scoop peas and carrots, encouraging her with praise for each tender bite. After a few minutes, the twins switched to buttered toast, dunking it in the soup. They laughed over soggy crusts, a sound Jensen hadn't heard since their rescue. Ms. Calder brought out a platter of fresh fruit, strawberries, apple slices, banana chunks. "Time for something sweet," she said. Mia chose a strawberry, inspecting its seeds before taking a bite. "It's juicy," she said, smiling. Eli picked a banana slice. "Like sunshine," he declared, echoing his earlier granola bar memory, but without the edge of desperation. With plates cleared, Jensen led them to the counter for a cooking demonstration, making healthy smoothies. She measured yogurt into the blender, then placed fruit on the counter. "Nutrition can be fun," she said. "Let's choose our ingredients." Mia reached for berries. Eli added a handful of spinach, more out of curiosity than health consciousness. They watched as Jensen tightened the lid, then pressed the blend button. The whir of blades sounded mechanical but comforting, like the heater hum. Into plastic. Cups, she poured the thick pink-green mixture. "Sip and tell me what you taste," she prompted. Mia's eyes widened. "Sweet and green." Eli grinned. "Tastes like a garden." Jensen laughed. "Exactly. Food that gives your body strength." She noted how they drank with enthusiasm, no hesitation. Later, they sat on the porch with blank journals. "I want you to write or draw how food feels to you now versus before." Jensen offered colored pens. Mia sketched a bowl of sunshine, bright yellows and oranges radiating from soup. Beneath, she drew grey crumbs, labeling them "Old Hunger." Eli drew 2 plates, one empty with cracks, the other full and steaming. He wrote a single word beside the filled plate. "Safe." Jensen reviewed their work. Relearning nourishment is about more than eating. It's about trusting that your body will be cared for. She placed volumes on a shelf, children's cookbooks, illustrated guides to nutrition, resources for them to explore. That evening, as bedtime approached, the twins prepared for their vigil. Jensen tucked them in and reminded them of the day's lessons. Their bodies deserved real, sustaining food, and people would continue to provide it reliably. Mia closed her eyes, clutching her stone and notebook. "I like soup," she murmured. Eli nodded, hugging his own stone. "I trust food again." In the dim glow, the twins drifted off with stomachs full and spirits buoyed. The echoes of old hunger faded before the promise of nourishment reborn, physical and emotional seeds sown for healing to come. The courthouse lobby buzzed with muted conversations as Jensen, the Parkers, and the twins navigated polished marble floors toward courtroom 5B. January sunlight streamed through stained glass windows, casting fractured rainbows on dark suits. Inside the packed courtroom, a judge sat behind a raised bench, robes crisp. A court clerk called the case in the matter of Eli and Mia Winters, hearing on petition for termination of parental rights. Jensen exchanged a nod with the Parkers who sat closest to the twins. The twins themselves clutched each other's hands, small but resolute, in matching blue sweaters. The state's attorney rose, document folder in hand. "Your Honor, we will demonstrate that Catherine and Nathan Winters have engaged in sustained neglect, despite multiple interventions, and that granting permanent custody to the Parkers serves the children's best interests. On the other side, a defense attorney looked over at the courtroom doors, searching for the parents. Neither appeared. The attorney cleared his throat. "Your Honor, the parents have been unable to comply with reunification plans, but they remain committed. We ask for additional time for them to stabilize." The judge's gaze swept the room. "Evidence, please." The state called Jensen first. She rose, smoothing her blazer. At the podium, she offered her credentials: licensed social worker, assigned to the case since the twins' removal. Carefully, she recounted findings: 3 days of starvation, locked basement, documented promises broken. She described therapeutic progress with the Parkers, trust built through consistent care. Jensen's voice faltered, recalling the twins' confessions. Eli said, "We tried to eat cereal, but it was gone." Mia said, "I hid the last cracker under my pillow." She pressed a hand to her chest. These children endured unimaginable neglect. The Parkers' attorney followed. Janet spoke softly, detailing home safety modifications, emotional support routines, and the Sunday family meetings. She described the twins' flourishing, restored health, laughter. "Trust, they thrive here," she concluded. Eli and Mia were then called. Each gave simple testimony under Judge's gentle prompting. Mia's voice trembled as she said, "I feel safe with Aunt Janet and Uncle Robert." Eli's clear statement echoed, "They keep their promises." The judge nodded, turning to the defense attorney. He spoke for the absent parents. "The Winters expressed remorse, have secured housing and entered outpatient programs. They seek to restore their relationship." A murmur swept through the gallery. Jensen held her breath. The Parkers' attorney responded firmly, "Your Honor, promises without consistency exacerbate trauma. These children need permanence, not conditional hope." The judge leaned forward. Papers shuffled. Then she spoke, voice measured but resolute. "This court's paramount concern is the children's safety and well-being. The evidence shows the Winters were unable to provide basic care. The Parkers have shown unwavering commitment and have earned these children's trust." She tapped her gavel lightly. "I find clear and convincing evidence to terminate parental rights. Janet and Robert Parker are granted permanent guardianship." Silence held for a heartbeat, then a soft exhale escaped Jensen. The Parkers reached for the twins' hands. Mia's eyes glistened. Eli's lip trembled. The judge continued administrative. Details: visitation rights for the state to report on the twins' adjustment, ongoing support services. Then court is adjourned. A murmur of congratulations rose. In the hush that followed, the Parkers pulled the twins close. Jensen approached, offering a tissue to Mia. Outside the courtroom, the winter light seemed brighter. The twins stepped into Janet's arms, safe at last. Robert looked skyward, relief etched on his face. Jensen smiled despite tears brimming. In that moment, the echoes of neglect were replaced by a promise fulfilled. A courtroom reckoning that granted 2 children the permanence and love they deserved, a new chapter finally secure. Sunlight spilled across the living room floor as the Parker family gathered for their first official breakfast together. Freshly baked muffins cooled on a wire rack, and steaming mugs of cocoa crowned the table. Janet poured milk into a bowl for Mia, while Robert served pancakes to Eli. The twins wore matching pajamas, blue for Mia, red for Eli, colors they'd claimed long ago as shields of comfort. As they ate, laughter wove through the morning air. Mia told Robert about her dream, soaring above the maple tree in their front yard, the wind carrying her free and light. Eli chimed in with his own, a race car adventure through rainbow highways. Their eyes sparkled with possibility. After breakfast, they moved to the porch swing, where a simple ceremony awaited. Janet knelt before the twins, holding 2 small silver keychains engraved with their new last name, Parker. She handed one to Mia, whose fingers trembled as she accepted it. Eli took his, studying the letters before slipping it into his pocket. "These keys," Janet said, voice soft but firm, "are to your new home. Your home. Every lock they open is a promise. You belong here, you are loved here, always." Mia pressed the keychain to her heart. "I like promises," she whispered. Eli wrapped an arm around his sister. "Me too." Jensen stepped onto the porch with a stack of photo albums. The twins' eyes widened. She placed them on the swings. Armrest and opened the first. Images of hospital caregivers, the paramedics who found them, the nurses who soothed their fevers, the doctors who treated their wounds. Each face smiled with relief, a testament to survival. The second album held photos from the Parkers' home visits, family meetings with Janet and Robert, pancake mornings, art sessions. One spread showed the twins clutching their worry stones as Jensen tucked them into bed. Another captured the day they placed their first gold star on the chart. "This album," Jensen said, "is your story, how you traveled from neglect to belonging." She closed it gently. "And this next one," she said, pulling out another, "is for everything yet to come." They opened it together to blank. "Pages." Janet handed Mia a pen. "First entry," she encouraged. Mia hesitated, then wrote, "I am home." Eli wrote beneath his sister's words, "I am safe." Across the pages, they drew scenes they dreamed of. Birthday parties with cake, autumn walks through crunchy leaves, a family camping trip under a canopy of stars. Each line sealed their new beginning. Robert stood, smiling down at the twins. "Who wants to pick out a new family activity today?" They cheered, voices clear and bright. Mia suggested baking cookies. Eli proposed a trip to the Science Museum. They settled on both, morning in the kitchen, afternoon among rockets and exhibits. As the day unfolded, measuring flour and sugar, racing toy cars, and marveling at planetary models, the house felt alive with purpose rather than echoes of pain. The heater hummed its steady comfort. Rain tapped gently on the tin roof, and the heirloom keychains jingled softly in pockets. That evening, as twilight draped the sky in lavender hues, the family gathered on the porch swing once more. Mia rested, her head on Janet's shoulder. Eli nestled against Robert's side. Jensen joined them, and together they watched fireflies dance across the yard. No words were needed, only the hush of contentment. The scars of neglect still whispered in memories, but they were now softened by the warmth of trust, nourishment, and unwavering love. In that moment, the Parker family embodied a simple truth. Every day offered a chance to turn the page, to write new lines of care and hope. And on the blank canvas of their future, two children who had once known only hunger and fear now found the freedom to dream, to belong, and to flourish in the home they had claimed as their own.